It's so empowering, really. Like, a lot of people look at this and it's like, oh, it's dangerous, it's going to replace. But I think it's going to allow us to go into this age of reimagining what filmmaking is. We've been in like the superhero genre and like the churning out of like sequels for so long because these studios are too scared to lose money and to take a chance on anything else.
Yes.
But once we have individual creators and then creating these teams of teams, that is going to like completely change the landscape of film, and I am so excited.
Today's episode, we talk about how AI is revolutionizing the film industry and how it's becoming the ultimate film crew.
So we're going to take you from pre-production all the way through post-production and show you how AI can act as this film crew while you sit back and be the ultimate director. What's up, guys? How's it going? Welcome to the Metaverse podcast. I am your co-host, Atlas Theory, here with Archetype. What's up, dude? How's it going?
I'm good, man. Excited for this episode, as always. We've been talking about character creation and lore story, and I feel like this episode is that next step. And we're talking about actually putting it together and creating something. And we've seen a lot of stuff. People are starting to dabble in this. Have you been seeing this as well?
Yeah, we're getting hints of it. I think the big thing is still the Chat GPT, a little bit of the AI art, but AI filmmaking is on the horizon. So I'm excited that we're going to get into this a little bit here today.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of time before all the tools come together. People start piecing this with their story, with their characters, and starting to create some really exciting content, giving a different option to the mainstream media.
Oh, yeah. No, it's going to be exciting. Like, you kind of think of like your Premiere Pros or your DaVinci Resolves, like these whole suites that are built out. We're going to have that for AI. You're going to just go in as a creator, customize what type of content you create or want to create for that particular project. And it's going to format a little format of what? What is it? A view? A preset, not a preset. What is it? Like a view, like a normal view, and you know how you can move windows and stuff. What's that called?
Workspace.
What's that whole thing called?
Workspace.
Oh, yeah, thank you. That's because I couldn't think of it. And boom, there's a whole workspace just ready to go. So yeah, very exciting times ahead, and I'm ready to get into this. I mean, side note, Canva and some other things are already starting to put AI into their programs. Ooh. So it's coming.
So AI filmmaking, like, where do we even start with this? Can you take us through the steps, take us through the process of how we go about that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm very excited to get into this. I myself went to Colorado Film School back in the day, so I love film, I love movies, I love shows. So let's jump into it. If you go back to our previous episodes, we have been talking about coming up with characters, coming up with the stories, or at least ideas using AI. And this is really the next step, because once you have a concept or an idea, we can enter pre-production. So today we're going to go through pre-production, production, and post-production to kind of go through the whole filmmaking process and which AI tools are available in each one of those sections.
So pre-production, production, and post-production. Give me the pre-production first. Let's hear what you've got. Yeah.
So we need a script, So by now we have our concept or idea. If not, throw it into an AI chatbot. But we're going to actually go back to that same AI chatbot and ask it to write a script based off our idea. So it really is a prompt, and you can play around with the wording of your prompt to get a good script, or I would say even a good synopsis to start. From there, you kind of know where your story is going. You can take this and plug it into any script software that you want and start editing it. As they say, all writing is rewriting. You're taking out the very first step, which is writing. All it is rewriting now. So that's really, really cool, really exciting. It speeds up the process so fast. From there, you can use AI to correct any misspellings, any formatting that you may need. And so now we're sitting here in still pre-production with a script.
Okay, so we've got our script. How do we visualize that? What would you use to sort of see how this is all going to play out?
Well, as we've seen all over social media, there are many cool AI art tools. So now what we're going to do is take our script and block out sections and moments from it and create prompts for each one of those. Then we're going to take those and go over to any one of those, Dolly. What are the other few? Do you know off the top of your head?
Midjourney, Stable
Yeah.
Diffusion.
Yeah, any of those. So you're going to take that prompt over. You're going to play around with it, kind of go find words that hit the style you're looking for, the angle you're looking for, and you're going to, create a bunch of pictures. Then we're going to just lay them out in front of us. So you kind of see in a matter of an hour or two, you've gone from an idea to a storyboard.
Yeah.
You know, of course, if you're going to want to spend time to like really master the process and do a lot of great edits. But if you're just like, hey, I'm going to make an AI film as fast as I can, that's what you're going to do. So it's really exciting. Like you're cutting out a lot of work. You're cutting out a lot of crew members.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like getting to curate all this.
And you could even like take the parts of the script and then throw that into the AI so you get more of a concise sort of storyline as well. You're feeding AI with AI.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. It's so cool. Yeah, I've been working on something. So have we also in our own time. Full transparency to those listening here today. But we've been doing just that, and it's been a really fun process. Did you have any comments from your experience kind of playing around with like this initial pre-production segment?
Yeah. So from a visual standpoint, like I have no problem. Like I can jump in and I can create characters, and I have no professional experience or education with filmmaking, but I've seen a lot of films and my brain will break down like what I like and I think what works. So the visual side of things, no problem. Script writing in general is the biggest barrier. So if I didn't have this tool, I wouldn't even begin to start. Like it would just be a roadblock. Now that we have this, I can just blow through that and get something that's really cool, really professional. And so those barriers and walls to actually begin are just taken away and I can just move on with the next steps.
It's so empowering, really. Like a lot of people look at this and it's like, oh, it's dangerous, it's going to replace. But I think it's going to allow us to go into this age of reimagining what filmmaking is. We've been in like the superhero genre and like the churning out of like sequels for so long because these studios are too scared to lose money and to take a chance on anything else.
Yes.
But once we have individual creators and then individual creators working with other individual creators, we're creating these teams of teams that is going to like completely change the landscape of film, and I am so excited.
Well, I kind of see it similar to how YouTube gets more views than traditional TV. And that's because the barrier of entry for people to come in and tell story or to create media is so low. You get these people that don't have this huge budget that they have to worry about getting a return on. They can just start creating. People love that. They're consuming it. There's going to be this explosion of another platform of some sort like YouTube that's just all AI created content.
I think so as well. I've seen like hints of it, but we won't go into those in like this episode. But yeah, exciting times. So there are so many other elements of the pre-production process, but I think it's time that we get into some production. This is a segment that is still being worked on because it involves more technology. For instance, cameras, lighting. I think someday we will be able to write a prompt into maybe even just a lighting engine and say the mood that we're going for, and the lights automatically adjust. The one aspect I could really speak on is the use of these screens, like in The Mandalorian. They're not green screens, they're not blue screens, but they're projected. With animation mixing with AI art, we can also use our AI-generated art as those background images. So I think that's going to be really like the first use of AI in actual production. That versus like your everyday, like making sure the script is followed, the items are in the right place on the table, back when you need to get multiple shots,
Mm.
like just the day-to-day scheduling and everything. That will be AI, but that's mostly text-based, which we've already kind of talked about.
Is there any AI out there at the moment that is doing the equivalent of an editing job?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let's move into post-production. There is for almost every single editing segment. So let's talk about maybe just like a basic edit first, taking out all those spaces and all those ums. Now, I'm actually going to toss this one back over to you. Do you remember the name of that software? I don't.
Descript. That's the one.
Right. Oh yeah. No, it's a great tool. It'll take out the ums and the spaces. I know there are actually a few like it that have some added benefits. But before we go too much further into all the separate little editing systems, I'm going to put a link to a YouTube video down below. It's this guy who goes through the editing process, but he uses AI to do it. There will be more tools mentioned there if you're specifically interested in editing. I know another one is we need to do marketing, right? We're going to go do some movie posters. Yeah. I know you've played around with that. Want to tell me a little bit about your experience with posters?
Yeah, so I've done some movie posters and some magazine covers as well, which are kind of similar. What I like about them is they're mixing like the visuals with text and graphic. And that's where I think at the moment it's not quite there. So if you were to give me a movie poster, it'll do it like fantastic job at the artwork. But then the text is mumble jumble, letters and words, a little bit blurry. But the placement of them is really good. It's funny how just the right text, the right font in the right position can make it look really good. So what I've been doing is I've been taking those images, creating another layer, copying that over and just wiping off that text using like Photoshop AI tool, which is like that content aware fill. So you can just literally like draw a box around where that text is and just use AI to fill it over and just replace that text. And maybe I might tweak it and change the style of font depending on how I want it, and then I can sample some of the colors that are in that image and you get some really good results.
It's crazy how fast this works, right? So we've just gone from an idea to script all the way through production to now you have a movie poster.
Yeah.
Now we are like speaking on certain tools that are out there, and I don't think we're going to be able to hit all of them. There are a few videos out there. So I'm going to do two links. One is the one I mentioned before. The second is now. I watched a video, and maybe we can have a little discussion about this, where a guy made a short film purely using AI. What I mean by that is while we have made the scripts and while we have this editing software that can do it for us, the production part is really missing. We would need cameras and we would need, so on and so forth. But he made a 3D model purely based off of AI text. Whoa. And it's an automatic 3D model that's also run from AI. Whoa. And then he put it into AI movement. It's not great. It's like 80s, early 90s animation, but this is just the beginning. It's crazy how you can actually do everything sitting down at your computer, even creating the soundtrack, which we can get into as well.
So you mentioned sound. Like, are you talking about music score or are you talking about voices?
Both actually are being able to be made using purely AI. There's a lot of AI to voice apps that you can use. There are also, going to music, a lot of AI to really just any type of music that you can create. For instance, there's one called Ava, AIVA. What you can do is just go in, select the mood, select the length you want, and a style.
Wow.
And it'll just generate a song for you. I've done it a few times already, and it's just beautiful of like how fast it gets done. So you're just putting in the moods of each of your scenes, kind of going through your script. By the end, you have a soundtrack that was fully created by AI.
Dang. So I guess for a novice, someone who doesn't have the skills going to a film school or something like that, I guess you could just start studying films now, like really like breaking them down and seeing how they're put together. And that's fun too, because like you're then watching a film not just as the consumer, but you're actually like looking at it from, say, a director's point of view. And you could go in and start stealing ideas of, you know, what works and what doesn't.
You know what? Something crazy as well, now that you mentioned you can just look for ideas. I will have to get the name. Maybe we could put it on screen. There are even lighting and fill when you are editing, and you can go select certain movies that have a style that you like.
Whoa.
And use that as your reference.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's
cool.
so cool. Yeah, it's just really changing. But yeah, going back to the novice guys, there, just pick up a beginner's filmmaking book that goes over the basics, or there's like filmmaker courses on YouTube that are like less than $100. But then you could probably just find filmmaking channels who teach you like everything. AI is a tool to use, but you do have to build up your own knowledge of the subject to be able to direct to the best of your abilities.
A perfect example, Casey Neistat. He is great at telling a story. He knows what he wants, that emotion. Your camera, your hardware, or your gear, doesn't matter. Shoot it with an iPhone. Just tell your story. If you are passionate about telling a story, just go for it. Don't worry about where technology is at the moment. Just start telling your story.
I know that's a challenge that you and I have kind of talked about this year for ourselves.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's going to just be, you know, a image that maybe even slightly moves at first, but who knows where we end up by the end of this.
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about like, where do you think this is going to go?
Oh man, this year, or like, give me a time frame.
All right. Let's say by end of 2023, what do you think that we're going to see as far as AI produced content?
I think a lot of the moving image / motion graphic novels are going to be first to really make a big splash. But I would love to see AI text to AI art and taking that AI art to 3D model. And once we have 3D model, we can create animated films because we already have AI motion.
Yeah.
So once that's done, I think by the end of this year, that could also be like the next big revolution that sparks going into 2024.
Dang. Yeah. I mean, once you get into that 3D world, and we've already got photorealistic Unreal Engine. Wow. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Yeah.
It's insane. I'm going to throw that back to you. What do you think for this year?
2023, I think, is going to be the year of the comic. Whether that's animated or not, I think the artwork is fantastic, what people are producing. The animation side of it, I think by end of 2023, we'll get there. We're starting to see it with some mobile apps. But as soon as like some of these big players like Adobe After Effects, these traditional character animation programs get into it, I think we're going to see the quality just rise. By the end of 2023, we'll start to see these bigger players introduce more AI apps into their production software.
I think that's a great prediction.
Well, thank you, man, for walking us through how AI is changing the film industry. Super excited. I just want to get off this call and start creating myself. But we'll see you guys for the next one. Jump on to our website. It's metaversedpodcast.com. Give us a like, a subscribe, and drop us some comments. If you've got any other questions, we're actually dabbling in this ourselves. So there's a lot that we've been learning that we can't necessarily put into this podcast. So reach out, give us a comment, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.